So let's go ahead and get started here. Today is September 8th already. It's not going to be long, and then soon it will be fall, although you would never know it from our weather today. It is currently 85 outside, and here it is, as you can see from the clock behind me, 6:45. It got up, 90-ish, maybe a little bit more. When I've been flying, it's been close to 100 up there. So definitely not fall weather. When we first moved to this area some years ago, 19 years ago, as of August 3rd, usually the heat, which never got to 90, 87 was a hot day. 90s were rare. Now they're every day. The heat would break mid-August, and we'd start getting some of a pre-fall cooling. But we're not getting that anymore. And I'm going to be heading into the worst of it. Let's see. We have Optical Man Jeff in. Hi, Dave and all Augies from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where it is 91 degrees and clear. And Chuck Schreiber, good evening to all Augies from N5 KVO from South Texas. Beautiful evening, currently 85, which is what it is right now here. Bill Malman says hello from AB4P. David Samsel says hello, Dave and all Augies. 59 degrees in Moscow, Pennsylvania, near Scranton. By the way, received over 5 inches of rain during the past few days here. Ooh, I hope you didn't get that flooding. Here we are sitting here in the Mountain West watching the news with the storms and everything back east, and it just looks a little wild, to tell you the truth. It even rained out in Las Vegas, and they got a little rain or a little floodwater into some of the casinos, because no one ever has rain out in Las Vegas. I mean, you get a little shower, that's it. But, or maybe one of those weird, it rains, drops an inch and moves on. But it got a lot worse than that. We had a really bad rainstorm here a few weeks ago that was more than an inch in about an hour. And it really tore up the road coming up to our place, which is a gravel road, which became a gravel, rock, and rivulet road as a result of that. At least the county, when they came out, they realized that they had never mag chlorided our road, so they put some new, supposedly green version of mag chloride on it, which helps keep the dust down. So we're guinea pigs for that. Let's see. Bob Darlington, howdy from Los Alamos. 90 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday, but I didn't think it was hot. Well, it's dry heat, right? Chris KE0OG from St. Cloud, Minnesota. T. Klepper, hello from Newark, Delaware, KC3RGN. Chris KE0OG. We had a high of 85 here. That's reasonable. William Myers, KE0OG. Hi, Dave and all Augies. Bill Castles, hi from hell, Phoenix. I've got to imagine it's warm down there. And Phoenix is only about 1,000 feet above sea level, give or take. And and it gets relatively humid because of the, see if I'm over blasting this audio. It gets a little humid because there's a lot of irrigated farmland down there. So that can warm things up a little bit too. 110 in Sacramento. Well, K6SDW, it gets that hot about every year, as I recall. Wendell Holbrooks, greetings from Wendell, K4WHZ. Glenn Martin, hello from far west Missouri, 79, 38% relative humidity. Sounds pretty good. N0QFT. William Myers, KA8GIM, 77. And Bruce, SI. You got me on that one. Dave Turner, hail from the UK, not a radio ham though. Well, Dave, welcome, and condolences on losing your queen. That happened quite recently. I know there are a lot of people in Britain who wonder about the Americans' love affair with the British Queen. But since we don't have official royalty, we sort of substitute the Queen. I realize we rebelled against Britain 250 years ago, but, you know, queens are fun. King's fun. Now King Charles III. And the first two Charleses had an interesting history. So, God save the king. I saw her standing to meet the new prime minister yesterday and thought, well, you know, she's hanging on, but I guess not. Can happen very suddenly. I know it kind of did with my dad. He had a fall, another fall, and went downhill pretty quickly and passed away. So, but Dave, I hope you become a radio ham. I understand that my training videos might be helpful. Go to KE0OG.net, N-E-T, /training. And it tells you kind of how to get started. And of course, the Radio Society of Great Britain is your organization there. It will help you. Hi, Dave, an all-home weather station reporting 114 today here in San Jose. Yes, K6PWC. James KI5OEB says hello. Martin Westland says Marv WA6OLS. Where are my glasses? You know, I'm getting to the point. I used to be able to read everything from here. I just can't anymore. And let's see, Marv WA6OLS, Chris K0BLU, they received about an inch of rain in New Haven, Connecticut, and that closed the underground library because of the flooding. Yes, oh, that's terrible. That happened at CSU, Colorado State University in Fort Collins, quite a number of years ago. They had a flash flood, and it hit the railway tracks, which of course are up on a mound. And there are tunnels underneath for the water to go, but they all got clogged up because the water hit all at once. And it ended up flooding the lower floor of the library there and destroyed some pretty valuable collections, stuff that couldn't be replaced. So that's pretty bad. Frank Mark says, good evening from Victor Echo 1, Foxtrot Sierra Mike. Marvin Westland, Ontario. Kristen Bliss, hello from Pittsburgh. This ADHD Life says, hello, Dave, from the Portland metro area. Possible power cuts in the next 2 days due to wildfire risks, getting up to 97 this weekend. That is hot for Portland. I mean, Portland is supposed to be raining, right? I've been up to Portland. I've been to the Rose Garden. It's just to the west of Portland. Beautiful, 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 beautiful. I have a million pictures of there. And then Multnomah Falls. And we enjoyed our time in Portland. Dave Turner says, just wet at the moment. Warren Baker says, good evening, Dave and all loggies from WA4BAK. And Chirepia says, hello from Uruguay. And I don't know how badly I've mispronounced that. But welcome. Welcome. I think you're the first person that I've known of that has come all the way from Uruguay. Greg Horton, good evening. K6XSS here from Benicia, California. It used to be if you had an X in your call sign, it was a call sign that was used for literary purposes or in a movie or something like that. Also, experimental stations got them. But now they've stopped doing that and they're giving out X's as part of call signs. Let's see. Natalie Batista says, KK4FLA, hello from Fort Lauderdale. It's raining. Yes, it does a lot there. I used to live in Tampa, and I remember when Hurricane Frederick came through. We got 18 inches of rain in 12 hours, and it flooded everything. The water was up to the lip of the top stair leading onto the porch, and around on the side of our house we got about a quart of water in under the door, but otherwise we escaped that one by, I would say, a quarter inch. So, and I remember I was in the Air Force at the time, going down to the site to look at the radar, and you could see the outline of the storm on the radar. Okay, hello, Dave, another Northeast Pennsylvania fellow here, KB3ZQJ, 65 degree here in Wyoming County. Boy, it must be raining or something. On Lee, KK7EMW, hello, Dave, hello, everyone, from Issaquah, Washington. Jeff Defany says, greetings, Dave and Augie's. Recently purchased a Bioano 12-volt, 20-amp-hour battery for portable work. Well, this is a Bioano, as you can see, and it's 12 amp hours. And I use this kind of as my local 12-volt power supply for just about everything. I was using it to make some videos today. Picked up a SARC 100 antenna analyzer, and it needs this battery to run, or you can put a huge amount of AA's in there. But it's a nice little battery. It's got the power management system inside. It came with a little charger, so they're very nice. Let's see. Thank you for your Ask Dave video 553 about portable grounding. Oh, you're welcome. John Groffin, greetings from Whyalla in South Australia. Great show. Well, welcome. John Groffin, Victor Kilo 5, Kilo Juliet Golf from Whyalla, Australia. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Octavia Bizarro, good evening, Dave, from New Bedford, Mass. KC1NSI, Pete Dayton's channel. Join us in Reno. We race T6 Texans. Let me know when, because, let's see, we've got Compost 935. Hello from Chuck, W8LVT, Michigan, Swartz Creek, and best wishes. I am leaving tomorrow with my wife. We're going up to Salt Lake, and on Sunday we're going to have a little gathering at my sister's house for her birthday, which is, oddly enough, on September 11th, and she's turning 70. Now, I had that experience a year ago, and my wife just had that experience. She turned 71. And I'm 71. So we're going to kid her about finally being old, all that sort of thing, and tell her no matter how old she gets, she can't catch up with her older brother. And then my wife's coming back home. She's got a lot to do here at home. And I'm going over to Carson City, Nevada, which is south of Reno. And it's the capital of the state of Nevada, and there is a flight school there that specializes in sport aircraft, and I'm going to go there hopefully to finish things off. I'm got everything signed off in my logbook as being ready to take my check ride. I think my instructor has more confidence in me than I do, but we've been out practicing various maneuvers and so on. One of the problems going out there, I'm not taking my own airplane. So I'm going to be using their airplanes, which are light sport aircraft, but they're new, glass cockpits, meaning all the instruments are on screens electronically, as opposed to mine, which has dials, except for one little Garmin G5 in the middle, which I way overpaid for. But the idea is to finish it up, quote unquote, finish it up. I'm having everything signed off, going out there, and hopefully I will come home a licensed sport pilot. Now, sport pilot is there's the lowest, least expensive, least complicated types of aircraft are the so-called ultralights, and they're governed by Part 103 in the FAA regulations, which consists of the front and back of a single page. And if you go one step above that, it's sport pilot, and that actually requires an FAA license, but does not require a medical. And so I can just use my driver's license to show them that the state of Colorado lets me drive, therefore the FAA is going to let me fly. Now, if you go up one step above that, it's recreational pilot, which very few people do. I don't even know why it's there. It's just a hair breadth below private pilot, and the privileges are just a hair breadth below, and the requirements to get it are just a hair breadth below. But the first entry level for most people is private pilot. When you get your private pilot, if you're young, 18, 20 years old, and you keep pushing forward, you're on the airline track. That's how you get ready to go fly an airplane for United or American or whatever. You keep building hours. You usually start out getting your private pilot, and you build some hours. Then you get your instructor license and build some more hours. And finally, you go to one of the flight schools for airline pilots for the regional stuff. Then you fly with the regionals for a while. And when you are considered to have paid your dues, you go back into training for the big airlines. And everything's done in the simulator. And your first actual flight in a 737 or something like that, you'll be sitting in the right seat on a revenue flight. Actually, a revenue flight. They do not waste any jet fuel pushing trainees around. So, and then you work your way up, currently pretty much at the top of the heap, even though the 747's starting to get kind of obsolete. The 747 is still considered the queen of the skies. You can make $350,000 flying 747s. And they do a lot of the international routes and stuff like that. So, now, what is the sport pilot gateway to? The sport pilot is gateway to going out and having some fun, flying a little bit. I can take one passenger. One. In fact, my airplane only has 2 seats. So I can take one passenger and fly around, have fun. Now, I have unlimited privileges as a sport pilot to go anywhere in the United States. Okay? The the license isn't valid outside the U.S. But I can go cross country. I could go to Oshkosh. I could go to Dayton. But I can only fly in the daytime. And there are lots of limitations on the aircraft and so on and so forth. So it's going to be interesting. This is something I've wanted to do for a very, very, very long time. So hopefully it will work. So please pray for me as I go out to Carson City. I'll get there Monday evening, start work on Tuesday, and we'll see where it goes from there. It's just open-ended. Now, I sat down and made a bunch of videos today, and they'll be coming up quickly. First of all, the most important one is that this is the giveaway for September. The Radioddity GD88. It's a new radio. It is FM handheld, VHF, UHF, so dual band handheld for FM and DMR. Okay, And so this is the radio that we'll be giving away. I just did a review on it. Just recently did a review. Did a video today on, there are a lot of people who like to connect a battery charger to a 12-volt battery and then use that battery to run their rig. There are a couple considerations. I'll even go so far as to call them issues with doing that. So there's a video on that. These people right here at a radio station, a shortwave radio station, that does some of its own Christian broadcasting, also as a relay station for, I think, Radio Prague International. They had a very interesting story about how the 17th harmonic was interfering with an FAA frequency and how they fixed it. Very interesting. Also did a video on the 50th anniversary of MFJ. Interesting company. It's 50 years old, just turned 50. And they, ham radios, we know it wouldn't exist without them. They make all the accessories that we need. And then I've got a bunch of others here that I can make. I haven't made yet, but that should get us through next week. Also, if you've been watching my videos all the way through, then you note that I am thanking a patron at the end. And I'm working my way down the list of patrons here. And Patreon, you go to patreon.com/KE0OG. And you can pick any way you like in there to support me, monthly, annual, whatever. I've noticed since I've started doing that quite a few more people are signing up for Patreon. That's good because revenues are down and I need to get revenues up. Revenues are always down over the summer. Now that school has started again, people are back from vacations, the revenues will start coming up a little bit. So I have been working my way through this, saying thank you to individual patrons. And one of these days I'm going to just run a real quick list of the patrons. Now there's one additional thing, because there's another way of doing it that's like Patron, but it's through PayPal. PayPal collects fewer fees than Patron does. And I want to make sure those people get thanked also. And there you can sign up for $5, $10, or $20 a month. Most people sign up for $5. And it's another way of supporting the channel. And of course, there's the tip jar, one-time support for the channel. Let's see. Okay. Join us in Reno. We race T6 Texans. Yes. I went to some air races out in Mojave one year. I actually saw a glider went around the pylon, or a glider type aircraft. I can't even remember if it had an engine on it. And it hit a hit a wing tip on the ground going around the pylon and just sort of spiral came down. Nobody seemed terribly concerned, so they went ahead with their race. Hello from Chuck, W8LVT, Michigan. Swartz Creek, Water Voice, N0ZFV here. My son got his tech at Ripponelli's at age 10, and that was 20 years ago. Wow. Has it been that long? Gee. Of course, my kids both got their licenses at Rip and Ellie's at Bark Junior, Boulder Amateur Radio Club Junior Division. And John let his expire, but Jennifer's is keeping hers current. My wife got hers there also. Just challenged him to a race. He's studying for his general. I'm studying for the extra. course, I offered to coach him. Well, yeah, the reason I got extra is because I was coaching one of these Bark Juniors. He was 17, I think. He is a kid who, when he took his ACT for college, he aced it. He got 100%. He was one of 8 people in the nation that got 100%. This was one bright kid. And I was coaching him, and I said, I'm not going to let a teenager beat me to extra. So I got myself in gear and started working hard on the extra and got my extra. So he's currently a missionary in Thailand, not for our church, but for his church, and sort of lives there kind of permanently, doing service work for the Thai people. It's really quite wonderful what he's doing. But good luck to you and your son there. Jack Martin, hello Joe, KB3ZQJ from KC3SIN in Luzerne County. What a Voice, we both have OG's videos in our back pocket. I'm confident we'll both hit our marks. Very good. Reno Race is 8:17 and 18. Does that mean they are bygone, or that they are coming up in a week, 17th and 18th of September? Would that be perchance 9, 17, and 18, which would be a weekend? And I should still be in Carson City. Maybe I'll come up for those if I can figure out where they are. Ralph Leland, hi Dave and everyone, K4TA in Fork Union, Virginia. Optical Man Jeff, KE0OG, says, Dave, I think you did a video on the Bluetti solar power generator. I bought that. Has a 537 watt hour, 700 watts. Did you try using it for your HF radio? I did not. But I have with the later ones that I've gotten. I have tested them with different loads while listening on 40 meters using an outdoor antenna just to see what comes out of it. So far, none of them. I just got a great big one. I think the video's already out. It's a full, it carries a full kilowatt hour, which is a lot for a battery, but you can buy a kilowatt hour from the local electricity company for about $0.25. So, and the Bluetti is the one that I'm taking with me out to Parts West because it will allow the my CPAP machine to run all night on it, whereas the battery in the, I guess in the RV doesn't do quite as well. Lee Johnson says, Dave, thanks to you and because of you, I passed my extra a few weeks ago. N4WYE General for greater than 65 years. Well, golly, I think that makes you about 70, right? So congratulations to you. Congratulations for getting your extra. Go the next step and become a volunteer examiner. What are reasons not to keep upping the flying license you have? Basically this. I'm technically a student pilot right now. I hope to get a sport pilot. To become a private pilot, you have to pass a medical. The medicals are designed for a lot younger people than me. And I know already I would never pass an FAA medical. So I just want to fly. I don't want to fly a 747 to London. I just want to fly my little Rands S6ES around the valley or over to Moab or maybe to Salt Lake or down to Alamogordo or someplace like that. I just want to fly. And there have been a couple times that I've soloed, just gone up by myself and just flew without any particular objectives for the session, just flew. And it's very peaceful. I just enjoy it. Next time I do that, I'm going to take a handheld, 2-meter handheld, on 146.52 simplex. Let's see if I can raise anybody. Let's see, James says they never got rid of recreational, probably because it would exempt the few that have it, and it is a lifetime license, yes. So a sport pilot. Bill Castles, you don't need no stinking instruments, just close your eyes, and when the examiner gasps, just pull up a little. I am an A&P IA private ME instrument, 45 years, and I'm still alive. Oh, good deal. Yeah, there are a number of times when I've done landing approaches that the instructor just covered up the instrument pile and says, just fly it. And, you know, fly it, you land, and that's it. Although personally, as an engineer, I like to know my speed, because the idea of a, what do they call it? Not coordinated, but steady, a controlled approach. You keep 70. Now on my airplane, 70 with no power, you go down. 70 with some power, you're going down. 70 with a lot of power, and you're actually going up. That's the climb out speed is 70. So 70, 70, 70. So I just keep it at 70 with 2 notches of flaps, going on down, aiming at the end of the runway there. And 70 seems to be a good speed, because if you look like you're going to be a little short, just a little bit extra power, it changes your pitch angle up so you can go hit the runway. I have heard conflicting opinions from different people about whether it's okay to, as you're coming down, add a little power so you can just come in just right. Others who say that, no, you shouldn't do that, because if you're doing that, you came in too low. You should come in higher so you don't ever have to add extra power, which to me means you always land long. But we've got a 6,000 foot runway at Delta, and I need about 1,000 feet. So, you know, it's crazy, crazy, crazy. Yeah, money, that's for sure. I've heard flying commercial is a lot of boredom sprinkled with moments of sheer terror. Yes, that's a common description. KG says he's KK7CLY. He is Leo Gustafsson, and he is in 81 in Albany, Oregon. Vacation, what's that? Yeah, one of the nice things about working for myself is if I feel like taking a day off, I usually can, as long as I've stayed a little ahead on the videos. And now I'm going to go take like a week and a half off. So I'm working with my assistant. He's coming down here. He's going to work from here on this very computer and fix up those videos and get them out. Bill Castles, thank you very much. He has added $25 to the chat revenue, and I really appreciate it. Jeff Dauphin has also added $25 to the chat revenue, so we're up to $50 for the evening, and that is very much appreciated. James, KF50AB, Jesse, I don't fly commercial, but I would agree the takeoff and landing is usually the only excitement, except in IMC. IMC stands for Instrument Meteorological Conditions. In other words, you can't see where you're going. That's cloud flying, plus in clouds you have bumpy air too. Mark Saunders, MM7PGL, good evening. Okay, so that is it's a British call. I'm not sure just where. Good evening, Dave. Our condolences on losing your queen. First day seriously learning. Okay, what happened there? We lost our connection. Well, as I was saying to Mark, our sympathies for losing your queen. Congratulations on your new king. Charles has been waiting only 72 years for this moment. It's amazing. I think the Americans are more enamored with the British monarch than the British are. But it's to us it's a fairy tale thing, you know. To the British, it's real life. Okay, good evening. Oh yes, it is a mountain to climb. Now, the way you climb a mountain is one step at a time. And the way you learn Morse code is persistence. And by persistence, I've got, that's with a capital P and underlined, in all caps, bolded, and red letters, persistence. It will take you a while. There are code practice sessions from W1AW every evening on 40 meters around 75, 74, 50 or somewhere around in there. You'll find it. They keep changing speeds, and the speeds and stuff are published in QST. Once you learn all the letters, the quickest by far way of getting your speed up is to find a friend, and the two of you get on the air together, and the only way that you talk back and forth is Morse code. No fair having 2 meters on the side. You know, just talk to each other with Morse code, and your speed will go up very rapidly. That's how I got from 5 to 18. A friend, WB6MMJ, who now lives in the Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead area. He lived very close to me when I was a novice. We were about the same age, and he and I would get on the air every night and send code to each other. We'd just do pages out of QST, and it got really good, really good. Okay, so yes, it is a mountain. Just keep working at it. 15 minutes a day. After that, you get frustrated, stop, wait another day. Okay, what rig would you recommend for a new general ham license, ease of use, power cord, etc.? Okay, the reference station, as James said. Go to dcasler.com, dcasler.com, com/reference. I haven't completed the one for Novice Tech, but the one for General is pretty well fleshed out. Now, I put that up 2 or 3 years ago. Now, in addition to having the reference station, I bought the reference station. What I have over here is the reference station. So whenever I talk about something, I'm using the reference station. Now, the reference station is built around the ICOM 7300. A lot of people may like a different radio, Kenwood, Yaesu, whatever, fine. And go ahead if that's what you want to do. But please understand that when I demo something on HF, it's going to be on the ICOM 7310 or 7300. And so something to consider. But yes, that is the reference station. KK7CLY is too nervous to fly fixed wing. Oh boy. I blame the Navy C-118 that had more than one near mishap. I flew on an Air Force C-118 once, cargo plane, I think, where you had to sit backwards and all that sort of stuff. And hello, Trish, my sister. Good evening. I will be seeing you on a Sunday and looking forward to it. And Loretta and I will be there a day early and are looking forward to touring some cool things in Salt Lake City, and would be very open to recommendations of places to go. So, Trish, we will see you on Sunday, face-to-face. Tim Backus finally got on to see you live. Great to see you again. Thanks so much for what you do for new hams and the very old like me. You learn something every day. And I learn something every day, I will tell you, too. And we come down to Jeff Dauphini's $25 in chat revenue. And if anybody else wants to throw a little in there, anything is appreciated. Young people today like making electronics. Do you have suggestions on how a young person today can print a PCB board to get on the air as a novice? Well, You're talking about the maker phenomenon. These people are called makers. They have their own conventions and everything like that. And they do electronics for hobbies. Sometimes they can tangentially it hits ham radio for making kits and stuff like that. Of course, we don't have novice anymore, but the novice privileges live on in the technician. If you get the technician license, you get all those old novice privileges too on HF. So a lot of people, now this is not a good first kit, but it's a good second kit, I guess, is the QRP Labs QCX. Now, they're also making a QDX right now, and the QDX is for FT8, but that is not for novices or technicians. That's for general class and above, unless you do it on 10 meters or 6 meters. But this particular radio, I think, doesn't go up there. And it's, trying to remember if it's 4-band or single band. I have to look. But the QCX comes in a variety of variants, and they make one that's fairly big. And that would be the one to try as a kit because things are spread out. Note that you will have to wind toroids. And don't run screaming into the night over having to wind a toroid. Anybody can wind a toroid. It just takes a little patience and persistence. And persistence, okay? Young people, yeah, so that would be something. You wouldn't print the PCB board, you get the PCB board, but you would, all the soldering is through hole components, which is a lot easier than surface mount. Okay, thinking about the new Lime SDR2, but it's very expensive for a new novice. The nice thing about the QCX is the price. You're talking $100 with the case or something like that. There's also, of course, the HF-SIGs radio, hfsigs.com. It's from India. I built a couple, 3 of them. The circuit board is actually complete on it. Tim Backus is flying on basic med since it started. That's all you need. So glad they created it. This is for pilots who fly private, things like that. If they have passed a FAA medical in the past, and not the distant past, but in the past, and they have not failed an FAA, not FCC, FAA medical. So the last medical they took, they passed. They can do something called basic med. Basic med is sort of like permission to keep flying with some restrictions. Okay, modest restrictions. Not very many restrictions. You get a lot more privileges than a sport pilot, but that's under basic med. Now, if you flunk your FAA medical, you're going to have to get a waiver in order to use basic med, and that might prove interesting. I don't know of anybody who's done it. So, okay, yeah. Now let's see. I know I've seen kits online, assembly from parts. Oh, lots, yeah. Oh, lots. I recommend QRP Labs because I've constructed a number of their radios. I've met the guy in charge. He comes to Dayton every year. And it's just a very nice radio. 1.2 stall speed is approach speed. I would say 1.3 is what they're recommending now. Cross-controlled stall on final is the worst. Yeah, if you try to do a rapid turn and you stall, it's very easy to go into a spin, and that's irrecoverable, that close to the ground. Irrecoverable. So you have to avoid not going into it. Now, the way you land, if you're doing a side slip, which is one of the things the FAA recommends, if you got crosswind, what you do is you use your rudders to line up the airplane with the runway. Now, once you do that, the wind's going to start blowing you to the side. So you have to use the stick into the wind which will tilt the aircraft slightly so that you're coming down onto the runway. You want to land with the front end facing forward. If you land crabbed, you're going to do nasty things. There's only one airplane I know of that is designed to land crabbed, and that is the B-52. It is designed to land sideways. It's got both front and rear wheels that turn. Weird airplane, but it's been around since, well, the pilots who fly in it today, their grandparents flew that airplane. So anyway, you want to keep lined up with that. But when you do that, you are not coordinated. And so you've got to be careful what you're doing. And what happens to some people, if there's wind shear or something like that, and they come up or they come sideways, and if a wind gets under a wing like that, you're in deep trouble. Deep trouble. Or if you're if you lose power on takeoff, some people try to turn around and come back to the runway. You can't. You physically can't do that. The turn will turn into a stall. You will stall while turning. And since you're turning already, you're going to go right into a spin and straight into the ground. So if you lose engine on takeoff, you go forward and you have some plan what to do if you go forward. Okay, so Tim Backus, 70, is also the old Cessna 150 for climbing in pattern. Such an easy number to remember. Yeah, I'm 71, so I may do it at 71 now. Harbrecht, B. Harbrecht. Hi, Augies. KE0OG, Bob finally here. Hello. KK7CLY visited Buddy Hex yesterday. Very impressed. Yes, I saw that last year at the Pacificon and saw it again at Dayton. Now that's a pretty complicated antenna to put up. It doesn't go up in just a minute, but it is a portable the way the Buddy Pole people have done it, and it's nice. I have a hex beam. It's a permanent install, not exactly permanent, but it is up and operating. And I like it. It's nice. You get about 4 times, so twice the 6 dB gain out of that antenna in the direction you're pointed, plus losing 6 dB from the interference that's in the other part of it. Would be cool if today's novice could build their own novice transceiver. Yes, they can. Are you still a novice? I don't think so. Very few novices left. There are about 6,000 of them. And what is odd about that number is this. If novices are just people who never bothered to upgrade and forgot about their license, all of the novices would have disappeared by now. But they haven't. There's 6,000 left. So that means that each one of those has renewed their license at least once. So these people have some interest in ham radio. So if you find somebody who's a novice, something made them renew their license. So, say, hey, look, let's get you up to tech. So we can get you on VHF, UHF, and then as a novice, let's get you working. To become a novice, they had to have passed 5 words per minute code, because the novice license was eliminated before the code requirement was eliminated. So if you're a novice, you passed 5 words per minute code at some point. If you're still a novice, you've renewed your license at least once. There's some interest in ham radio there, waiting for somebody to say the right thing to wake it up. So let's see what we can do on that. You're back. Yes, I am back. I missed Thursday, not last week, but the week before. I just I am 71. I get to space things once in a while, and that's what happened. I totally blew it. It's my fault, nobody else's fault but my own. Now, this coming week, I will be in Carson City on Thursday, I think. And so I will try to do the live stream from there using my portable hotspot, my phone, and we'll see how well that works. I am taking a laptop with me, so hopefully that will work. Okay, let's see, you're back. Lift of the Lynch led to Craig and the crew at Buddy Pole. Yes, I came away with a Buddy Hex and a 10-meter Masterworks tripod and mast. Get some sandbags. Fill them up most of the way with sand. And then when you put that Buddy Pole tripod out there, put the sandbags over those tripod legs to hold them in place. W1, and this is W2AEW. Hello. He's another YouTuber and one of the best out there. W1AW code practice is on 7047.5 megahertz. Okay, so I wasn't too far off. 7047.5 is probably on right now. Now I just have to set it up. Let's see. An engineer, what was your experience with business managers? Well, I was a business area manager for a while. As an engineer, I've been in and out of management all my career. Been first line, second line. I prefer to be engineer. When I went back to IBM, I told them from the very beginning, no, I don't want to be a manager. So, although I came pretty close with what sure felt like program management, which I've done. I even got the Lockheed first level cert for program management when I was with them. So I've done system engineering. I've done, and as an engineer in IBM, no two jobs are alike. I mean, one job I was counting cables for rack setup. Next job I was doing highfalutin technology forecasting and talking to people at IBM research labs on the latest. I mean, I had all kinds of jobs. It was fun. Let's see, does the club FISTS exist? I think it does. They used to help people learn the Morse code. FISTS is still around mainly as a club. Long Island CW Club, that's where you want to go. It's probably the most active with training programs. Now, my favorite program, G4FON. Look up G4FON, the G4FON Morse Trainer. It's an old piece of software, but then again, Morse code is old. And it has, I think, the best mix of features for teaching the Morse code. Does a very nice job. Can we provide open source SDR hardware and software for young novices to build? Okay, let's change the term novices to technician, because novice actually means something in terms of a license, and it's not issued anymore. But yes, there are all sorts of things out there. There are a lot of people who are trying to mate the maker movement, which is mostly young people, with the ham radio movement, which is mostly old people. So there are some young hams who are very enthusiastic. And when I was working with Bark Jr., we were minting new hams at quite a good rate, several a month. And I know when I was there, they had gotten up to 270 some odd kids had gotten their ham radio licenses, including some extras during that period of time. It was very fulfilling to work for. Hello from Dayton, Ohio, Richard Lawson, AC8XZ. Very good. Optical Man Jeff adds $20 to the chat revenue. Thanks, Dave. Had fun getting your sport license and visiting Salt Lake. Yeah, it's going to be stinking hot in Salt Lake. Nothing much we can do about that. It's just hot. The last time we were there, it was 110. And we had stopped at the KOA. We were just going to spend some time in Salt Lake, and visit. I know I've got family there, but we wanted to see some of the tourist spots and family. And the problem that we ran into was this 110-degree heat. And the trailer that we had at the time had a very loud air conditioner and was barely adequate at cooling, if that. So we actually packed up and left a day early and found a site near us here in Colorado to stay the last night, and much better temperatures there. But when I'm going out to Carson City, south of Reno, it's going to be very hot. I'm anticipating 105. And I anticipate I'll be flying in 105-degree weather. I know my plane will do that because it has done it before numerous times. I mean, it doesn't climb real fast, 300 feet per minute, but 300 feet per minute is greater than 0, and it eventually gets you to where you want to be. If you fly start getting toward midday here, you start getting wind shear and updrafts and downdrafts. And I remember hitting one and I gained 1,000 feet in about 10 seconds. And that's better than losing 1,000 feet in 10 seconds, that's for sure. But yeah, okay. James, KE0OG, the QDX is not hard, but it is small. That's a common theme with QRP Labs. He does like to cram components onto a small board. W2AEW has a video or two on winding toroids. It's very simple, but it just takes persistence, and there's a particular way that you count the turns. So watch one of his videos for that. Trish says the state fair will be happening this weekend. Where will the state fair be? I am curious. That would be a lot of fun to go to. Optical Man Jeff, HF Sigs has a new model with a bigger screen. Oops, I just lost everything there. New model with a bigger screen, waterfall, and 40 watts. Wow. I may have to look into that. That would make a nice portable rig. Because his rig, actually, interesting, nobody talks about this, but that rig is not limited to the ham bands. There's nothing in the software that will stop you from transmitting outside the ham bands. But most people don't care. They just stay in the ham band. But 40 watts, that's only half an S unit down from 100 watts. So New York Stories loves the videos. Thank you. Well, you're certainly welcome. K6SDW, many years ago, a ham friend lost power on takeoff and safely landed on the freeway. Wow. He was very lucky there not to get hit by a car. I am leery of roads because roads have overpasses, power lines going over, things like that. Out here where we live, it's quite rural, and I would head for a farmer's field and do a soft field landing, a very soft field landing. Or there's a lot of desert out here. You could pick something that's pretty flat on that. The problem is that a little gully going across that you don't see from the air that's only this deep will swallow a tire, so that could be a problem. Do you know anything about the ATAS mobile antenna from KE0RPU? I believe that's made by Yaesu. Mobile antenna. Lou French has one. If you go back into the general class videos, there's a video on operations, operating your radio. And it's mostly about mobile operations. And I have a section in there showing Lou French's mobile setup. And he uses the ATAS mobile antenna. So, yeah, they do work. They do work just fine. Let's see. James, KE0OG, Air Coupe originally had knee action for crosswind takeoff and landing. Then they also did that thing where if you push the stick to the side, it automatically changed the rudder. Okay, So the rudder and the ailerons were rigged together. So you didn't have foot pedals for the rudder. The rudder was activated by the movement of the stick back and forth. And you had to land crabbed, obviously, because you didn't have separate control of the rudder, and you had to straighten it out just prior to touchdown. And the only pedal on the floor is a brake pedal. Now, these are the original air coupes. A lot of them have had the rudder mod so that they can do proper things with the rudder. The original air coupes, which were built in the late 40s, early 50s, were designed so that they could not stall. The control movement, you could pull that stick all the way back all day and it would not stall, because it just, the control movement was limited on the thing. And it was really designed for that. The air coupe, there are YouTube channels on them. One is James Good, I think, does one, a very interesting one. He has the rudder mod. He has a silver. He has taken all the paint off and polished it to a high polish. And so he calls it his silver air coupe. And he has a nice YouTube channel. I enjoy following his YouTube channel, but it is an air coupe, 70-year-old airplane. Okay, Neil Marsh, good evening. W2AEW, I'm with you regarding management. I progressed to the ranks to engineering management. Made the decision about 16 years ago to change jobs back to a individual contributor. I like that. Field apps engineering. Yeah, I've done both. It was about the third time I was in management that I started to actually enjoy taking pleasure in work done by others. That's the key step to going into management as an engineer. Because always before I had taken joy in my own contribution to the work. But when I was a manager, I was jealous. I wasn't getting to do the work. Well, finally, about the third time I was in management, I was program manager for the ground system for the boost surveillance and tracking system during one of the studies. It eventually became Fuse, and then it became SBIRS, which is in orbit today. But I was the ground segment program manager, and I had about 30 full-time equivalents. About 20 were full-time, and another quite a few. And I did things a little differently. I'm not sure management liked it, but I did it anyway. We had to submit documentation according to a schedule. They're called Subcontractor Data Requirements List, or ESTRLs. And every ESTRL was the responsibility of some one person who was responsible for pulling it together. And I said, find one other person to sign it off. Doesn't matter who. Find another person to sign it off and send it to Lockheed. That's all you need to do. Now, the first one that gets bounced will change that and have a more stringent review. And so I told people, nothing should ever come as a surprise to the people at Lockheed. I said, I want those of you who are team leaders to call your counterpart at Lockheed every day. Find an excuse to talk to them every day. And if you are an individual contributor, talk to your counterpart at Lockheed once every 3 days. Find any excuse. I don't care, the weather, fishing, whatever, but talk to them. We never, in the whole year I was working on that project, never had a rejected document. And the other thing I said, whatever you're doing, when we go to Lockheed for the design reviews, nothing we say should come as a surprise. It should be pro forma by the time we get to the formal reviews. And people did that. They talked to their Lockheed counterparts, and we were synced I'll tell you. I did another thing, too, when we were proposing the next section of it. I did something that just really flabbergasted a lot of the old IBMers. Was I invited somebody from Lockheed, who was my counterpart at Lockheed, to come out to IBM and stay for 3 days. And then I said, if we had our kickoff meeting, I said, this is Jeanette. She's here. If you have any questions, don't guess. Ask Jeanette. And people were saying, what are you doing? You've got the customer in the house during the proposal. Okay. Yes, exactly. That's right. I am. Because I don't want anything I give them to come as a surprise. And it was so much fun working with these people because we had no reviews. We didn't have to do this because people actually played by the rules. Because everybody knew that if they were the one that submitted the bad data submission, they were the one everyone on the project was going to blame for screwing it up. And it never happened. And the whole time I was there, it was just cool. I had a lot of fun. Like I said, I had a lot of fun on that one because I could take pleasure in other people's work, which the first 2 times I was in management, I could not do. So, yeah. ADHD. Any thoughts on the GD88 versus the Anytone handheld? This is a little less expensive. The GD88 right there. And this is the September giveaway. So keep those cards and letters coming. All you need to do is send a envelope sent to Dave Casler, P.O. Box 98, Ridgeway, Colorado 81432. Mark it as the September giveaway. And I need your shipping address, your name, your call sign, no call sign, okay, call sign, shipping address, and your phone number in case I need to contact you about the shipping, okay? And here's what I do with all the entries. All of the entries stack up here. I had a huge stack of entries for August's giveaway of the SDR Play RSPDX. Huge number of entries for that. Every one of those entries except one goes in the shred pile. I don't keep any notes. I don't keep any information. Totally private. They go in the shred pile, and that gets taken down to Home Depot for shredding. Okay? Or not, Office Depot for shredding. The only exception is the one that wins, and that goes with the unit to the person who wins. So I don't keep anything. I suppose I could go through my shipping records and maybe find out who won in the past, but otherwise I don't keep a list. I want it to be private. It's private. Okay. So I've got 2 here from different people so far for September. And so at least one of these will lose, and it will go in the shred pile. And one will win, not one of these, but maybe, I don't know. We'll go with the unit to them. Okay, so that's how the drawing works for September. We do a drawing, a giveaway once every month. I try to provide some ham radio thingy that I got laying around here. I need to thin the herd. I really do need to thin the herd. I have stacks of handhelds that have been sent to me for review. I've got all kinds of other stuff that's been sent to me for review. So why not just pass them on? Some of them I actually bought with channel funds. Okay? And that's fine, because where did the channel funds come from? They came from you. They came from you. So this is a way to give back. Okay? So there you go. Let's see. So in terms of the GD8 versus the Anytone handheld, they're both fine radios. The Anytone is supported by Bridgecom Systems in Missouri. And if you feel like you'll need training or support or accessories or something like that, I would say get the Anytone, because you'll get stateside support for it. Okay, the GD88, you're just buying a Chinese radio, so they mostly work, so hope it will be. Oh, Stephen Arbogast, yes, technician. Philip Canterbury, N4 PRC, have you ever heard of W5YI testing with a reader for people with disabilities? I don't know about W5YI, but as an ARRLVE, I have done that myself. I've also done that with young children. Okay. One of the problems I noticed with the kids is some of them were good memorizers, and they'd go through the instruction manual and go through the sample questions and see that the answer to this one was B. And so they'd come in taking the test and then mark B. Well, the problem is on the real test, they mix up the order. And so the kids would flunk, and you knew exactly what was going on. So you had to get them to actually learn the responses to these questions. By the way, the FAA used to do this. They used to release the question pool. They don't anymore. King Schools it does a lot of things. Flight, just one of them. But what they have sample tests you can take online, and I did. I took a lot of them before I went up and took my written. And when the first time I did it, the actual test matched their stuff pretty well. I had to do it over again because it went over 2 years. Like I said, this has been a long journey. Went over 2 years, so I had to retake it. Got the same score, 90. But a lot of the questions I did not recognize. I had not seen those questions before. I mean, they were subjects that I knew. But anyway, yes, you can get a reader for those with disabilities. I assume W5YI will do the same. Okay, Sean Newcomer, question about 2-meter FM repeater obstructed by a ridge. Ooh. Yes, I have exactly that problem. If you'd look at a line of sight from here to the repeater, which is about 40 miles away, there's a ridge right here. And I get into the repeater full quieting, but I get multipath reception on that repeater. And unfortunately, in this area where we live, because the population is so low, there aren't all that many repeaters around. But yes, for multipath, you could put a beam up there and move the beam around to find the best direction to get a signal from, because the null on the beam can kind of cancel out the multipath signal. You can do that. But otherwise, the answer is in the antenna. You've got to get the antenna set up so that it doesn't catch that multipath reflection, which is coming at it from a different angle. James Kubinski says, hey Dave, quick question. How can I determine antenna impedance for the purpose of knowing what kind of Balun or unknown ratio I will need? Well, model it. Model your antenna. Let's see, is it the W6EL software? He has retired from maintaining the software, and he's offering the software for free. And I've used it for years. If you could model your antenna, the key things, height above ground, like if it's a dipole or something, you can actually look up tables in the antenna handbook and see what the impedance will be. And yes, absolutely, if the antenna is resonant, and by resonant I mean zero reactance. That's not necessarily the point for the best SWR, but if you've got it at a point with zero reactance, it may be a 70 ohm antenna, and you're feeding it with 50 ohms. So you're going to have about a 1.4, 1.5 SWR, just from that alone. Actually, if you tune slightly off and throw in a little bit of reactance, either capacitive or inductive, it's going to cause that SWR to come down a little bit. A lot of people don't know this, that the best SWR in an antenna may not be exactly at the point where the antenna is resonant. Some antennas, you think, wow, why can't I get my SWR down to 1 to 1? Well, the reason is because the resistive part of the impedance is not 50 ohms. You can raise or lower the antenna to change that. Now, note that you can make an antenna perfectly match on exactly one frequency. If you go higher, the antenna is too long and will act as a capacitance. Too short, no, wait a minute, too short. I may have that backwards. I keep getting that backwards. So if an antenna is too long, you need to add capacitance to shorten it. If an antenna is too short, you need to add inductance to lengthen it. When you add the inductance, that means the antenna is capacitive and vice versa. So there you go. You figured that out. I should actually write that down on a chart so I can keep it in my head. But the point being that at 40 meters and above, a simple dipole will cover the whole band at an antenna that your internal antenna tuner in your radio can handle. That is not true on 60, well, it is true on 60. It's not true on 80 or 160. You have to use a tuner there if you want to use just one antenna, or do something weird where you lengthen it, shorten it, and so on. Okay, so if you have this problem of, say, your best SWR is 1.6 to 1, you've got a resistance mismatch. It's not 50 ohms. It could be 100, and that would give you a 2 to 1 SWR right there, even if there's no reactance. So can you do a 2 to 1 balun? Well, it'd be 1.414 balun, okay, because you square the ratio to get the impedance ratio. So 1.4 to 1 squared is 2 to 1 for the impedance. Can you build a 1.4 to 1 balun? Absolutely you can. Okay, and you can get that thing working very, very well. But again, that'll just be for the one band. So I don't know. It may be that you just want one band with that antenna, but that should help, I hope. Okay. Stephen Arbogast, I'm an old E physics and software type. I think all 3 is required today. Oh, that's true. Sean Newcomer says he loves the streams and adds $10 to the chat revenue. Thank you very, very much. Did I miss one? That was Optical Man Jeff. Okay, so we're up to $80. I love QCX rigs. I have 10 different radios on most bands. Classic, Plus, and Mini rigs. Great. That is good. I built the Mini QCX Mini and then blew it out. And that was my fault, too. But I was at Dayton and I saw, what's his name? The guy in charge of that company. Anyway, he just gave me a new one, so I'm going to put that together. I'm about 6 kits behind. Okay, W2AEW never liked being a manager. Yeah, I know. Neil Marsh, father-in-law was E for Boeing, and a good one. Then he got promoted to management, and he hated it. Yeah, a lot of engineers who get into management really don't like it, and frankly aren't very good at it, because they will start to micromanage. They will want to use their people just as an extension of themselves. And that's a bad way to manage. You don't want to make your people an extension of yourself. You want to leverage their capabilities. So instead of one person being multiplied, you've got multiple people being multiplied. And you get a lot more interesting and creative stuff done. Like I said, I've been a manager multiple times. I've been program manager, I've been a business area line manager, and I've been an engineer, and I prefer engineer. So, greetings from Winter Park, Florida, from Aussie W9QK. John Ward, by the way, I do miss this Saturday live chats in May. The weekend goes so smoothly, especially when I was doing laundry. I used to do a Saturday live chat which was devoted to learning Morse code. And the problem was that the number of viewers kept dropping and dropping and dropping and dropping. So, oh well. I just, you know, I suppose I'll have to make some videos for learning Morse code and just put them up all at once that people can use. Greetings from Winter Park, Florida. We got that. Okay, never liked being promoted to manager. Wanted input from the engineers, but my management would not let me. Oh, managing and engineering are sort of like two ends of a continuum. The winds in CC and Reno changed drastically, especially around noon or later, so be careful. I fought wildfires in the area. Thank you, Glenn, for the warning. KE0OG says, hi, Dave. I'm 14-year-old ham. Just dropping by and wanted to say keep up the good work. Your videos have really helped me get a better grasp in ham radio concepts. 73 from KE0OG. Well, KE0OG, very nice to meet you today. And please help us understand what we as old guys can do to help you as new guys without just sitting there telling you what to do, because that's no fun. So I was once 14, although that was literally in another century. Natalie Batista, KE0OG, lucky you. Okay. And I wish that I had started ham radio when I was younger. It's a good hobby. Thank you. Jason DiCarlo, someone needs to develop an Android app version of EasyNEC. That's the software I was thinking. That is now available free. QRP Labs, Hans Sommer. Thank you, Hans Sommer. Yes, he actually lives in Turkey. He has a Turkish wife, and that he is, does the design work for his kits and so on. He was going to come out with something called the QSX, which was going to be a sideband radio, but it fell victim to the second system effect. The second system effect is, in the second system, you want to fix everything you think you got wrong with the first system, and you overdo it. You go over budget, behind schedule, it doesn't work, eventually gets canceled. That's kind of what happened with the QSX, although Hans just says it's on a back burner. And the second system effect, if you look up in Wikipedia, second system effect, it actually has its own entry for that. So it's a well enough known, 6 kits behind. Yeah, pretty good. Stephen Arbogast, I still think ham radio is a good hobby for young people. Absolutely. What is that? An odd message. Okay. I totally agree with you. I prefer being an engineer. Ralph Leland, 73. Everybody have a nice evening. Oh, it is getting close to quitting time, isn't it? Love your work, says Zach. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone from Fort Worth, Texas, WW5V, T5WWA. Blame it on solar flares and iron deposits. There you go. There are places around Steamboat, or is it west of there? Someplace on the chart, it says basically, don't trust your magnetic compass in this area. Because there are enough iron deposits, I guess, that really pushes things out of whack. Use your gyro compass. Okay, a good manager is a brain wired for people skills. Not that many engineers have brains wired for that. Oh, they do too. Like I said, I've been both. I've done both. A good engineering manager not only has people skills, but has good engineering skills. Because then he can understand what his people are telling him. So God save the Queen, long live the King. Yes, from Chris, K0BLU. Sorry to say goodbye to Queen Elizabeth. Charles is about 2 years older than I am. And my mother was quite infatuated with the Queen and her little baby, Charles. And that's why my middle name is Charles, David Charles Casler. It's Charles because of Prince Charles. I don't know that I quite understand that. I know she all wanted my first name to be Paul, but somehow it ended up David. So my mother was Catholic, so she had kind of that tradition. My dad was Methodist, so he kind of had that tradition. So the story goes, one evening while they were discussing what church to raise the kids in, there was a knock at the door, and it was the Mormon missionaries. They went with the Mormon, which I still do today. So, yes, MGYJO, Zach, Chris. Okay, Andy, hi Dave. Just bought an IC705. Love it. Nice radio. Stephen, Arbogast young people are curious. We must encourage curiosity. Yes, they are our future. They are also the people who are going to pay our Social Security, so we ought to be nice to them. Or I should say they are the people paying our Social Security. Social Security is technically a old age insurance program. And they used to call it the Social Security Insurance Program. The idea was you paid into it. When you got old, they would pay back. And if you didn't get old, too bad. If you got extremely old, great. But it has since been funded on a pay-as-you-go basis, so it's not technically an insurance program. But anyway, yes, I agree young people are curious. I remember when I was a new parent, 2 little kids, some very wise person said to me, Dave, if you keep telling your children to shut up, by the time they're teenagers, they won't talk to you about anything. So I said, okay. And so I always encouraged my children to talk. And to this day, we can have very candid conversations, knowing that we can trust each other with the information. What is your opinion of the Carolina Windham versus an off-center fed dipole? Both work. Does the vertical leg work as a vertical antenna? No, it shouldn't. It should work as a feed line. I'd go with the off-center fed dipole or an in-fed dipole. DJ Jackson says hello. Zach Hurst says Jackson whole. He is complete, so he's whole. Brent N4D BDW, Dave, you're looking well. I am feeling well for 71. And I'm going to go out. Yeah, that's the trick, finding a person with both sets of skills and one noggin. My very first real job was in the Air Force. I was the maintenance officer at 660th Radar Squadron. And to my great consternation, I had about 80 enlisted people reporting to me through several tiers. Height finder radar, ground air radio, common digitizer, power plant stuff. Oh, what a rude awakening for a naive young Mormon. Oh, golly, the trouble people can get themselves into. Wow, what an eye-opener. So that was my first round in management. Then I went to Northrop, worked as an engineer for a while, and then my second round in management, and so on. So, you know, the penalty for doing good work is more work, of course. Okay, yes, I am feeling well. Let's see. We are out of time. Is Elon Musk a good manager of engineers? No, he is not. I've heard horror stories where he gets one of his engineers flustered and then fires him for getting flustered. To me, that's cruel. Just plain cruel. And a waste of talent. So, oh dear. Anyway. Okay, then a guy asked me what my license plate meant. I told him I was a ham operator, and he said, that is kind of a lost art. Yeah, we do need more. Okay, so log periodic versus Yagi. Yagi. Log periodic is when you have a very wide range of frequencies to cover, not frequencies, narrow bands in spread apart. Get the Yagi. Besides, log periodics max out gain about 10 dB for the big ones. Okay, have a safe trip. Can a 92-foot doublet antenna work on 160 without having to convert it to Marconi? I don't think so. I really don't. It's going to be a vertical antenna with a huge capacitance hat. So, thank you all very much. I have to admit, I love you guys. I love this channel. I love interacting with Augies. Thank you for all the people who have recently become patrons. Go to www.patreon.com/KE0OG and look into it. See what you can find there that you like. So, I will see you next week, I hope, from Carson City. I hope. And if my trip stretches to the weekend and the air races really are the 17th and the 18th, I will go up and watch them, probably along with everybody else at the flight school there. So, until we next meet, 73.